Let's talk a bit about linter before we move on in our chapter. What is a linter? Do you use a grammar checker when you write an article? Think of linter as a grammar checker for your code. It can be used to pick up potential errors in your code without executing your code. The linter will scan your code and check the syntax of your code. Also, it will check out the hazardous stains in the code, like misspelling of variables, weird formatting, etc. As passing codes in a good coding style, for example, following PEP 8, will be less likely to have error. The linter will also check for code style. Checking if the code is PEP 8 components is common in Python linters. Using a linter not just helps us to spot and avoid errors. It goes hand in hand with code formatters and help keeping code with various authors having a consistent code style. As using linter is so important, in the Python ecosystem, there are some popular linters to choose from. The major players are PyLint, Frigate, and MyPy. Most of the time, you'll come across one or more of them in Python open source projects. Exactly the one mentioned above. As we demonstrate in the last video, we can also use black as linter to check the formatting of our code. However, there are things that other linters pick up that black does not. It is not uncommon to see more than one linter being used in a single project. Now, we know other linters commonly used in Python project. Why do we have a dip loop and try using one? In this video, we'll use Frigate to check the format of our code. Before we start, let's check if we have Frigate installed. In my environment, I'm using version 5.0.4. Now, we will try to use Frigate to check our code. Remember that we use black to reformat test.py? Let's use Frigate to check if there's any formatting problems with it. As you can see, nothing happened. This is good news. Frigate did not pick up any problems. Our code seems to be okay, which is expected since we already used black to clean up the code. However, it is not fun when everything works fine. Let's have a look at reminder.py. Well, as you can see, Frigate has picked up quite a lot of problems in the code's format. Guess what we must do now? Yes, that's right. We can use black on reminder.py to clean things up a bit. Okay, now that we have reformatted reminder.py, let's use Frigate to check again. Oh no, there's still 3 problems that black did not help us with. However, it is not too difficult to fix it. By the way, all the issues that Frigate pick up assigned with an error code, and you can check the documentation sites to see what the error codes mean. Let's look at the first issue on line 51 with the code FH21, which says pass list is undefined. As we can see, Frigate pick up a potential error as task list is never passed into the find_match function. This got picked up even before we wrote any test for the function, which is very helpful. So let's go and fix it. First, we have to pass task list into find_match function definition. Then, we must pass the second variable when we call the function. Here. Remember to save and quit. Okay, let's check again. Now, we only have 2 issues. The first one has been resolved. Hooray! The remaining issues are the same. The line is exceeding the character limits that PEP 8 recommends. We can, of course, go and reformat our code. However, we are going to do something slightly naughty here. For demonstration purposes, let's add a custom configuration to bypass this type of error with the code E501. If you read the documentation of Frigate, you know there are multiple places you can put in custom configurations. In our case, we will use talks, so we'll put it in a file called talks.in. And then we save and quit. Now, let's run the check with Frigate again. Now, all the issues went away. So, if we want to relax the PEP 8 rule a bit and ignore a certain type of issues, we can use custom configurations to do so. However, take this with a grain of salt, as by doing so, it would not be PEP 8 compliance anymore. We should never do it without a good reasoning behind it. And there you go. We have learned how to use Frigate to check our code and how to use custom configurations. In the next video, we will learn how to use black and fake8 in a more efficient way. In the previous videos, we have seen how to use black to auto-format a code and make it PEP8 compliant. It is a way to have a consistent code style throughout the project. However, we must remember to use black before we commit our code using Git. Now, would it be great if my code is backend automatically whenever I commit the code? To do that, we will set up a pre-commit hook. A pre-commit hook is a process that is triggered when we commit using Git. The easiest way to set it up is to use the Python library called pre-commit. First, let's check if we have pre-commit installed. We are using version 2.20.0. Pre-commit is a very easy to share hooks with other contributors. All you need to share is a file called .precommitconfig.yaml, and if they have pre-commit installed, they can set up the hook with a single command. Let's do it together now. To start with, since no one is sharing the configuration with us, we need to create one. Here, we are using black before we commit. But before we can use it, we'll have to install the hook by running the command. The hook with Git is not installed, and it's always a good idea to test run the hook after installing it. To do it, we use the command. Here, you see we ran black and it passed. This is because we cleaned up all of our files in the previous videos. For demonstration purposes, we will now mess up the formatting deliberately. And then we save and quit. Now, let's try to commit our changes. As you see, black failed because we have one file that has been reformatted. Remember that black exists with code 1 if our code does not fulfill the black code styling. In this case, we didn't manage to commit our code. Instead, our code was formatted by black. Don't trust me? Let's check. As we see, the formatting go back to the nice one with proper line spacing. So, if we commit again now, it should pass. With this, we can be sure that all the code committed fulfills the black code style, which is PEP8 compliant. Now, it comes homework for you. Are you able to add flag8 to the commit hook as well? Check the pre-commit documentation to see what hooks are available and how to add them. The finished .precommitconfig.yaml is available on GitHub repo for your convenience. In the next video, we'll wrap up what we have learned in this chapter. It's time to recap what we have learned in this chapter. First, we have learned what is PEP8, a proposal regarding the Python code style. It's the standard in the community, and most open source projects in Python are following this standard. Then, we know about BLAT, a convenient auto-formatter to help you clean up your code to be PEP8 compliant. It also helps to keep a consistency in the project with multiple contributors. Next, we have our later flag8, which helps to pick up problems in the code before testing and make sure the code is following the PEP8 standard. Last, we have demonstrated how to use pre-commit to install a hook with Git, so every time you commit your code, it will automatically use your favorite auto-formatter and linter, like black and flag8, to make sure you are publishing clean code. Now, let's check what we have in our project. Of course, we have the files that we have in last chapter, but we have a clean and easy to read pytests.py and reminder.py thanks to black and flag8. Plus, now we have toxter.ing and pre-commit config.yaml, which is used to store our flag8 and pre-commit custom settings. It will be useful in future chapters as well. If you're not sure, check all those files in the course GitHub repo.